Hey, I'm Linda Ferguson, and welcome to the first in our series of workshops on how to make change in yourself and in your behavior with NLP. Our very first night is called Use Your Body to Make Change. And for many people, this is kind of a radical idea. We assume that making change in our emotions or in our behaviors requires mental change. And it does. But mental change can be prompted by physical change. NLP is the art of observing how change happens so that those changes can be replicated or so that new, more elegant strategies can be used to reach the same results, or so you can interrupt a chain that leads to a result you don't like. In NLP, we look for the smallest, easiest change to start with. We don't look for the most complicated terminology, despite the endless complication of neuro-linguistic programming as a name for what we do. We look for the weakest link, the thing that is easiest to change, to start a change in the entire system that is you. In many cases, the easiest place to start a change will be in your body. To understand this, we have to understand a little bit of systems thinking, because you're not three people. You're not a brain plus a body plus a mind. You are one person, and that identity is expressed through the interaction of a brain, a body, and a mind. When you are in a situation that feels unsafe or uncertain, your brain will send messages to you through your body. Your body will respond. And through those changes in your body, you might experience them just as feelings, physical sensations, or they might start creeping up into your thoughts and become emotions. But what they are at heart is your brain recognizing something in a situation and preparing you to take appropriate action. Now, it works the other way around too. Changes in your body, in your sensations, in your interaction with the physical world around you, send messages to your brain that tell it what kind of state it might find appropriate to match what it's noticing in your body, so that you are better prepared either to stay safe or to move forward at pushing some edges, at doing some exploration. Now, what this means is that whenever you change your body's response to a situation, you also change what's happening in your brain. You change what patterns your brain identifies, and that's going to generate different thoughts that lead to you identifying different possibilities and then perhaps making a different choice. Tonight, we are going to keep it simple. We're not going to use the longest words. We're not going to talk about neurotransmitters or amygdala hijacks. We're just going to talk about things you might talk about anytime. Things that I first learned as a teenager playing soccer on the soccer pitch, but that NLP shows me are useful far beyond the sports field and far beyond those first years. So we're going to start with this idea that posture, the way we hold ourselves, makes a difference, not just to how other people see us, but to how we feel. And how we feel changes what thoughts we have, and that changes what behaviors are available to us. The picture shows you a man in something that is pretty close to what is called mountain pose in yoga. It's called neutral in acting. And I first learned it on the soccer field as the pose in which you can take a hit, you can be tackled. You might also recognize it as a good way to approach a strange animal when you don't know. It's a way of saying, I'm here, I'm strong, I'm taking up space, but I'm not aggressive. And that is almost universally a useful state to be in. In our exercise, you're going to see what's actually turns up in subtle changes in your posture because you're online, because you can't make big changes. Because when my hands are out, they look roughly the same as when my hands are in, when the camera only goes from here up. So we are working with the limitations of Zoom, not to be stuck by them, but to have them make us more creative. And you're going to work with a partner, and you're going to say to your partner, think of a situation where you feel uncertain. And whenever we say think of in NLP, we mean go back to a lived experience and remember it. Now, remember means to take the pieces of it and put them back together. And so remember means see what you were seeing, hear what you were hearing, and feel what you are feeling. But we use the present tense to make it more immediate, to make that memory feel like it's happening right now. So we say, think of that situation where you feel uncertain. Imagine it's happening now. See where you are and when you are. See what's going on. Hear what you're hearing and feel what you're feeling. And then shake it off. And shake it off means literally give yourself a little shake. You'll be amazed how much emotion gets held in your jaw, in your neck, in your shoulders. So you just want to release that because you don't want to feel uncertain any longer than you need to. Then your coach is going to say, okay, think of a situation where you are confident and balanced. Now, sometimes this seems like a really big order depending on what's going on in your life. But we all have things we can do with absolute confidence. I'm pretty sure you can brush your teeth or open your computer. It doesn't have to be a big deal. Backing your car out of the driveway the way you've done a million times before. You find that thing that you can just do. And imagine that as if it's happening now. See what you see, hear what you hear, and feel what you feel when you are confident. And then shake that off because we want to play a little game. You're going to pick either the time you were uncertain or the time you were confident and go back into it. It's got to be the same experience. And your partner is going to guess which one you picked. My guess is it's going to be a lot easier than it usually is here. We usually don't have kind of such opposites to choose from. But after you've chosen, you're going to ask your partner, the one who's doing the guessing, well, what did you notice? What was different in what you could see that told you I was confident? And when you hear what those signals are, you can say, which of those could I do on purpose? Could I deliberately loosen up my jaw, hold my shoulders differently, drop my breathing so that I drop my voice a little? What can I do? What signals were you getting? And how can I change me on purpose so that I appear more confident to others? And I feel more confident because my body is sending signals to my brain. Oh, this is what confidence is. I know I'm moving quick, but you've had a posture your whole life and you've been breathing your whole life. Now you know that changing your breath will change the state you're in, your emotions. But you also know that you only think about that when you're trying to calm down. And for most of us, when we're trying to calm down, achieving a relaxed breath is hard. Now, there are 3 possible answers to that, one of which we're going to do tonight. I'll tell you about the other 2. One is you can do a lot of practice of resourceful, controlled breathing until you can just switch your breath. That is slow. It takes a lot of intentional work. 2, you could think of a time which had a little more oomph in the breath, a little more, maybe breathing a little more quickly, but you could associate it maybe instead of with anxiety, find a time you were excited. Find a time when you'd been doing some physical activity that brought your breathing up. And think of that instead of what's going on. And that will start shifting from I'm breathing this way because I'm uptight to I'm breathing this way because I've been active. And the third way, the way that my dad taught me when he was my soccer coach and I would watch him run out on the field after somebody got hurt, was the first thing he would say was breathe with me. And he'd be slowing a kid down so that if they got winded or kicked in the shins, they were having that kind of immediate reaction to ow, they'd start to relax. But you can do this with people who aren't guiding you on purpose. You can look around a room, you can say, who's got the most resourceful state? Who here seems balanced and confident in a way I'd like to be balanced and confident? Or who here seems a little more in control than I am? And whoever it is, you just observe them and you start trying to catch their breath, because breath can be contagious. Now, all this means is that instead of thinking about your own situation and your own breath, you pay attention. And if they're talking and they're making a sound, they're breathing out. And in between, they must be breathing in, because breath has to come from somewhere. So when you hear them talking, you breathe out. And when there's a little pause, you grab a breath. Sometimes you can watch people breathe. You might see it in their throat or in the upper part of their chest. Sometimes it's really hard to see on camera. That's why your partner is going to be talking. And they are going to tell you about something fun that they did over the summer, something socially appropriate, something that they're comfortable sharing. And they're just going to talk about, well, I went to this place, I had this meal, I met with friends here, whatever they did. And as they are talking, you're going to try and focus on breathing with them. In when they stop, pause just a little bit for breath, out while they're talking. Now, the great thing about this breathing pattern is that when your exhale is longer than your inhale, it actually naturally relaxes you. That's one of the signs of a relaxing breath. And mostly you'll get that pattern when somebody's talking. Now, if you get into their story and you forget, don't worry about it. Because as you connect more with them, one of the things that listening to somebody's story does is it does bring our rhythms in sync, including our breath. And you can just go back to it. And you just want to keep it light and easy and have a little fun, but connect to a kind of breathing that expresses that relaxed energy we have in fun experiences. Final exercise for the evening. Walk it off. You've probably heard that said. Somebody might have said it to you. It's often said on a sports field when somebody gets hurt, just got to walk it off. It applies just as much in your workplace when something blindsides you and you need to get it out of your system. And the way you get it out of your system is not just a little shake, but it's to get out and move. Moving your body does a whole bunch of good things. Walking, among other things, tells your brain that what you want is to keep moving forward. Now, it's really hard for your brain to hold opposing states at the same time. So your brain has a hard time staying stuck while also moving forward. And you want to use that. You want to use the easy energy that can come with walking, with moving your arms and moving your legs. The grounding that comes with literally putting each foot on the ground, finding your balance and moving forward. And so there's a lot of good things happening when you go for a walk. But how are you going to go for a walk at the computer? Well, when you think about an experience, even if you just talk about it in words, you start to trigger in your brain the parts of your brain that would be triggered by actually having that experience. And it's really important when you're doing these exercises, you pick an experience you've actually had, because those memories are so much richer than pretending. Because if I said, pretend you're walking by the lake, you might forget that there's a smell in the air by the lake. Sometimes good, sometimes not as good. That the wind or the breeze just feels a little bit different down by the lake. But as you remember, you might bring all those kinds of little details into awareness, or at least into connection in your brain. So, first of all, once again, what are you working on? A time you'd like to make a change, but you're not making a change. Maybe you feel stuck. Maybe you're not sure what to do. Find a situation like that. You're not going to have to talk about it. At NLP Canada training, we never ask you to share anything you're not comfortable sharing. And we ask specifically that you don't share anything somebody else might not be comfortable hearing. Because your stuff is your stuff. So you think about this situation where you'd like to make a change. Think about means see what you see, hear what you hear, and feel what you feel. And then you let it go. You shake it off. And your partner is going to walk you through a walk. Now you want to think of a place where you really like to go for a walk. It doesn't absolutely have to be outside in nature, but outside in nature has powerful effects on your emotion that might help you move forward. So it is recommended. And maybe tell them a little bit about it. Are you in the forest? Are you in a city park? Are you down by a lake? Just any place you've really gone for a walk. For me, it's almost always a beach on the North Shore of Prince Edward Island. I just never get enough time there in real life, so I love to revisit it in my mind. And there's a little script here for your partner to read that helps you notice what's going on as you step back in your memory to going on this walk. And then when your partner sees you're into it, when they see the physiology changing, your expressions might change, your posture might change a little. As you're really into the walk, they're going to say, okay, come on back and just think about that situation where you were stuck, that situation where you wanted to move forward, but you didn't know how. What are you noticing now that you didn't notice before? And sometimes you might say it feels different. Sometimes you might have a new idea. I don't know. It's not my experience. But you want to go back and look at it through the eyes of somebody who's just been on this great walk. So there's a ton of complicated science that backs up what we've done tonight. It seems so simple and so accessible. And you might say, is that all there is? No, there's lots more. But I have listed on the last slide 3 books, one on posture, one on breath, and one on walking, that go through a lot of detailed science about why these things help us make change. If you want to read them, great. If you want to go look the authors up and find their TED Talks or their YouTube, also great. But you don't need to do any of that. You do need to remember the next time you're feeling stuck or unsafe or insecure in a situation that you can move your shoulders back and get open. That you can breathe, not just your own best breath, but you can breathe with the best state you can observe. You can take on somebody else's voice and just breathe with it to get you kind of out of your own head for a minute. And as soon as you can start moving your body to move your mind. That's our first workshop. I will see you again in 2 weeks when we look at how changing your perspective can help you make change in your thoughts, your feelings, and your behaviors. I'd love to see you at NLP Canada Training for more events.